quality of American oak in terms of in terms of everything, the sourcing of the wood, the treatment of the wood, the cooperage in general, is we're living in, compared to if you go back to 20 years even, we're living in, I think, just a luxury world. There's so much being done out there on a high quality level. You've got, all the French coopers who've come over and set up camp, which I think would, really, in my opinion, did a lot to kind of raise the bar. You've got their traditional, approach. France, they make wineries. That's all they've ever done. That's all they understand. Sure. It's a great thing. We kind of started off with bourbon. That's why we made barrels in the United States. And bourbon and wine have different demands in terms of cooperage. Very different. So, we've been really, really happy with the results we're getting.
Well, and the wood really gives a very distinctive note to the wines.
I think it absolutely does, and I think that if you really reach back far enough into the founding members of Ridge, and then of course Paul when he came on board, there was a real there was a very inherent desire. They really wanted to produce wines that tasted of this given place, and they were consciously avoiding falling into the, and it's an easy trap to fall into, of, here's Chateau X in Bordeaux. I like this wine, it's so great. I wish I could make this. And then, you bring it over here and say, okay, how can I copy this? And Ridge really did not want to do that. And I think part of the inspiration, if you will, of getting into American oak was, we're gonna start from right here, and we're gonna see if this American oak can give us, flavor profiles that are really that really make sense and work with the raw materials that we have before we even think about, French oak, which, and certainly French oak is it's wonderful stuff, and but it does give a distinct, it certainly opens up the presentation of a wine with something that says, this could or probably comes from France or Europe or whatever. So that was, I think it was an important decision they made, and certainly they served us and our wines well.
Yeah. Now, do you have, for lack of a better term, do you have like a set recipe for your barrels? Are they all pretty much done the same way?
The way, what I found is that, and first of all, we're one of the, we're real sticklers for using the old bourbon-shaped barrel. So you can see they're a little more cylindrical, and they're slightly smaller. These are 53 gallons as opposed to 60. And and of course, again, this is really, I think this is a Ridge's nod to tradition. The traditional shape of the American barrel was the shape.
Right.
And so we've sort of stuck with it. It also, it stacks a lot better for the way we do it, which is kind of handy. But what I found is that, and because of this, there's not very many coopers who are willing to make these kind of barrels, because they're like, we've got the set Bordeaux shape, we've got everything pre-cut to that, but we've been able to talk certain coopers into it, and one of the things that's allowed us is for us to really develop a close relationship with the cooper, because now they're like, oh, they want us to cut it now, we got to visit them now, So, and what you find is that, obviously each cooper is sourcing their own oak, and that's a real dynamic situation, because, it used to be American oak meant Missouri. And that would 90% of your oak came from Missouri, maybe Kentucky. End of story. Now we're getting it from Pennsylvania, Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Missouri, Minnesota.
Really?
So there's a lot of different, and now there's some actually coming out of, or has been for a while, of Oregon, which is a slightly different species of white oak than we see in the Midwest. So, you've got each Cooper sourcing from various places. So, it takes a while to kind of get to know what the wood that they're sourcing is like. And then you really work with each Cooper in terms of their toasting levels. Medium toast, at World Cooperage is a very different thing from medium toast at Canton, for example. So if you say medium toast, that doesn't mean anything specific except for what their house approach is. So maybe your medium toast plus at Canton means a medium toast. So you work with those things, and I guess you sort of develop your recipes, if you will, per cooperage, and really try to, of course, try to get those to make sense with each other in the blend and whatnot. So it's, but it's very dynamic scene out there in the oak industry, and it's certainly it's very from the winery's perspective. I think it's a very, it's a really, it's a winery market out there. In other words, there's so many Coopers, there's Hungarian oak and Russian oak and Slovenian and French. So there's so much happening there, so that, we've got a lot of choices, which is nice.
Sure. It's always fun to read the notes on the back label too, to see what kind of a regimen you use. Well, so many new second, third year.
Yeah, and and again, that's year to year too. I don't. I can take wild guesses, but really until the grapes come in, until the grapes are fermented, until, in my opinion, really even it's gone through malolactic, so they've kind of settled down, and you know where the pH is going to land, and all that sort of thing. I don't really know what we've got for a vintage. Sure. I mean, people always want to know the second the grapes come in. Is it a good vintage? Boy, I'm only starting to get some ideas about the 2009s. So. So yeah, it's really, I never know exactly what I'm going to do until the grapes get here. Yeah. And certainly not until we actually have to go into barrel do you really kind of get a better feel of, well, is this a vintage where we want to, where some extra oak influence is going to help, is going to integrate it or should we just leave it alone?
Yeah.
So.